Good evening. I'm Bob Casimore, Robert F. Casimore, St. Wenceslaus Parish. This is 2024. My family has been affiliated with St. Wenceslaus since 1884. They first came over from Bohemia in 1883. My grandfather, John Casimore, and his wife, Barbara Charper Casimore, came over on the Liberty ship, just a small sailing boat, called the SS Suvia. I don't know how they had the gumption to sail on something like that. Barbara, my grandmother, was pregnant. She was 6 months along, came to this country, and had my uncle, Frank Casimore, born in 1883. So then they joined St. Wenceslaus Parish and were here. Later on in 1884, Barbara passed away in childbirth with a daughter that was stillborn. So Jan Casimore met another woman who had just lost her husband from Prosec, Bohemia, and her name was Anna Bartok. She arrived in 1884, and her husband passed away during the passage of the ship. They then both joined St. Wenceslaus Parish, were active in the parish itself. That grandmother and grandfather had two more girls, and my father, John Casimore, in 1883 or 1893, 1895, and 1896 when my father was born. There's a picture here of the Katolicki Delnik, which is the Catholic workman, and it's the only picture that I ever had seen of my grandfather, Jan Casimore, and it's approximately 1890 here at St. Wenceslaus. And all the names by number are put on the bottom of the picture, so there are so many names that have been long-term here in St. Wenceslaus: Thurchkas, Petskas, Casimores, Shebethkas, Zachers. So it's really quite a find. My father went to school here and actually graduated from what was a high school here in 1914. And there was Father Schwerdlich was the principal, the teacher, and the pastor of St. Wenceslaus. And during that time, he built the new parish that we presently have in 1904. And my father would tell me that when he was in the old kindergarten in first grade, he would watch out the window when the workmen and the volunteers from St. Wenceslaus would come and help build the church and lay the brick in the stone from the quarry down by the river here in Cedar Rapids. The stone actually came from Indiana because our limestone was too soft. So fast forward, my father married Mary Julia Stodola from the west side of Cedar Rapids, St. Ludmilla's, and they were married in 1921. In 1922, I had my first sister, Mary Catherine, then a few years later, Helen, a few years later, Rita, and then a boy, Johnny, who only lasted 11 days with a heart problem, passed away. But of course, they were all born in the little house, one-room house out on the orchard that's still there. Then my sister, Regina, was born in 1929, and I was born in 1935, making me 89 years old. I'm the youngest in our family, and my sister Regina is still with us. We played basketball, and you can see the letter sweater from 1950s. I graduated in 1953, 1952, and 53. Our St. Wenceslaus team won the basketball championship up at Dubuque in the Archdiocesan tournament. We had a pretty good team. Jim Colbert, Chuck Hughes, Bob Drawzall, Joe Roman, and myself were the starters, and we did pretty well. Had a very good team that year and a very good team the next year. Some of us the following year got basketball scholarships. Jim Colbert got one to Coe College. I got one to Iowa State. Other than that, I had no intention on going to college because that wasn't what we really did here at St. Wentz at the time. You either went to work at the packing house right across the street or at the Iowa Steel, which was out the other door across the street. It seemed to be the history of our school, and I believe it really does well. The Mercy nuns were our teachers and mentors all through grade school and high school, and you have to give them so much credit for the job they did with very few assets to work with, usually all used books from other schools, and probably not the cream of the crop of all of us kids, but they shaped us up and they turned us into gentlemen, hopefully, and many successful businessmen that kept on in the parish.
Okay, I'm Bonnie Harmon May, and I am 72 years old.
I am Dwayne May. I am 76 years old.
I've been a parishioner here at St. Wenceslaus since I was 5 years old, and I attended school here from first grade through 8th grade. I had a graduating class of 13 students from the 8th grade class, which there are a couple of us still left that belong to the parish. I remember coming to school and having lunch down in the lunchroom with Helen Mayran being the cook, head cook, and Anna Schnittel being her assistant, assisted by Lillian Stava, who was the mother and grandmothers of one of my classmates.
I've been a parishioner for 45 years. That's when I officially joined St. Wentz. I've been coming to St. Wentz since I met my wife. I was Methodist before, and when I first came to church, I said, well, let's see. The building didn't fall down, so I figured it must be a pretty solid structure. It took my walking in and it didn't collapse.
Dwayne and I were married on Valentine's Day in 1976 here at St. Wenceslaus. My sister was one of the attendants and his brother was the other attendant. I have 7 siblings, and we all made for our first communions here at St. Wenceslaus. I was lucky enough to make mine 2 weeks before I turned 7 years old because my mother was a former classmate of Father Louis Tertial, who was a parishioner of St. Wenceslaus, was a member of St. Wenceslaus for many years, but they had gone to school together at St. Matthew's, and my mother said that she had known even back then that Father would be a priest because instead of doing recesses outside, he would go over to the church and pray.
Okay, my name is Edward R. Kuba Jr., and I will be 89 years old in November. And I attended St. Wenceslaus School back in the 40s when my dad was in the Navy, because I could walk to school. Monsignor Voyacek was the head pastor at the time, and of course the Mass was in Latin, but he also, being of Czech, he said a lot of sermons in Czech because there were a lot of Czech people that were attending St. Wenceslaus. and I'm of Czech descent. My dad and mother were both, their families came from Czechoslovakia. So I'm one of the last full-blooded maybe Czechs in the city of Cedar Rapids. And I went to the old school, which is of course now gone, and I'm kind of having trouble figuring because it was during the war and my dad was drafted then. Before that, we had attended St. Ludmila's, and because my Bobby Cuba, Anna Cuba, she was in one of the original people of St. Ludmila's, and my Jetta, Albert Cuba, had come over from the Czechoslovakia when he was about 4 years old. So my history of Czech goes way back. And I went to St. Wentz up to 6th grade, and I'm trying to remember some of there was a Sister Sylvester, I think, that used to teach maybe music, because I think I took piano lessons, or I remember I did, and was on a recital at one time over in the high school part there up on the stage. I can remember playing. And I don't remember how to play anymore, but I did. And my dad, Edward R. Cuba Sr., in later years did a lot of giving tours through St. Wenceslaus Church, and gave the history of the church and of the windows and all of that, and he was quite active in that part of the church. And later in their period of life, they attended St. Wentz and became members. And the funerals for both of them were held in St. Wenceslaus Church. And I have a lot of good memories of some of the people I attended school with. One was Bob Cuzzymore and Tom Zacher, and that would have been Father Abe Zacher's nephew. And there was a Gerald Babbage too that I ran around with, and I remember these guys from it.
Hi, I'm Diane Dreos. I've been a life member of St. Wenceslaus all my life. I'm 68 years old. I live across the street from St. Wenceslaus Church, 1215 5th Street Southeast. My grandparents, Charles and Ida Yaros, lived there. My mom was raised there. They moved there in 1932. My grandfather, Charles Yaros, was the janitor of the high school. My mother and father, Louis and Hattie Dreos, were members of St. Wenceslaus Church, along with my brothers, Charles Dreos and Larry Dreos.
Hello, I'm Elaine Padushka-Bose, and I've been baptized in this parish, and it goes way back into my parents' family. My dad's dad, Ed Padushka, was baptized in the original St. Wenceslaus Church. And as soon as my parents got married, they started coming to St. Wenceslaus. And I went to CCD classes here, and I remember the fun times that we had. And one neat memory was that when we were doing our classes, the nuns would be baking kolaches or rolls or something really good. And so we always got to smell that smell whenever we had our CCD on Saturday mornings. I'm real fortunate to have my mother's kroy, which is the costume of the Czech festivals. And I've been fortunate to be able to wear it a few times here. And then also for a school, I showed them what how the Czech people dress and what they do. See, just to tell about how I got a hold of the Croy. My mother made the skirt, and she got it from the Czech Republic when it was called Czechoslovakia under the Russians. And at that time, they weren't to take anything out of the country, so she put the material, folded it up, and put it within her clothes, and brought it over. And so that's the reason that I have the original Croy.
Hi, I'm Barb Pulkrab. I was a Dalitsky. My mom brought me to church when we were young kids, and so I've been a member of the church ever since. So, yeah.
I'm Don Pulkrab and started at St. Wentz at the time I was in the service, which was 67 years ago, and also grandparents and parents, all the aunts and uncles, all emigrated from Czechoslovakia and came to Ellis Island at that time, so it's a definitely 100% Czechoslovakian background.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when I think about it too, well, we were married here in the church in 1957. I was young. We met at Suckles, and that's how we, I guess, continued. Yeah. So anyway, would come to church, and talking about your family, your aunt, she was elderly, and I would always go and we would pick her up and bring her to church then. My mom picked my mom up and my aunt, his aunt, and bring them to church. So that was one way they got there. My aunt never, or his aunt or our aunt, she wouldn't sit with us. She didn't have sat with us. She had her spot, and that's where she went all the time. And my mom found her chair, and that's where we went too. So kind of that, yeah, thinking about that, that's what was going on.
My name is Marlene Dostal. My maiden name was Huber. I went to school here at St. Wentz from kindergarten on, graduated from St. Wentz. Then later my husband and I were married here in the parish. I had a lot of good memories from school. Went to school with so many good people. And we've had class reunions just within our own class, clear up to about 2 years ago. And but yes, I was chosen as cheerleader in my freshman year, so I had that for 4 years. Loved it. Was a lot of good times. Went to all the games, of course, cheerleading at home and at games out of the city. Father John Benta was our priest at the time. Beautiful voice. He was just a real treat to have. And he would take us in a car and take our cheerleaders out to all of the games. And I did have some activities within the different classes. I was chosen to be able to crown the Blessed Virgin statue through the month of May. And that was my higher up years, and I got to wear a wedding dress for that occasion. And as I recall, Sister told me, I believe, that Pat Beer had loaned me her wedding dress to wear for that. So that was quite a high point in my times there. We had a lot of fun in school. We had some boys that liked to be pistols at the time. Through some kind of a period that when we would have, it would be a quiet period. A couple of the boys would climb out the library window, go down the way to a tavern to get a sandwich or something. They never got caught. But my mom and dad owned a cafe. They owned a restaurant at the time. My mom cooked in the back. My dad handled the front. A lot of our classmates came in there, just to eat and stuff. And Oh, I'm just trying to think of all the things from school. There are just so many to remember. We sang in groups for the various schools. Oftentimes we'd be put with IC, their choral group, and we did that for 2 or 3 years. And we had youth center that we could go to. And this was when I was in high school, when we were there. It'd be like a Friday night. And bless her heart, Rose Blake was an older lady that would come down there and kind of monitor what everybody was doing. And we had our jukebox and our games, and we loved that. We'd be there till it closed. Then we'd walk downtown. In those days, we could do that openly, walk downtown to go to a place called the Butterfly. And we'd get our hamburgers and fries and Cokes and be happy and walk back home.
Hello, I'm Pat Rolina Simmelroth. I'm 77, and our heritage with St. Wentz goes back to the beginning of the church. So the first generation to come from Bohemia was Frank and Anna Sanka, and they came to the U.S. through Galveston, Texas on a ship there, and with them they brought their son John. John, the second generation, was the first couple to be married at St. Wenceslaus in 1874. So this was John and Anna Dostal. Unfortunately, Anna died. His second wife was Mary. Their oldest son was Roy Sanka, and so this was the third generation of our family to be connected with St. Wenceslaus. So that was Anna. Anna. So these were their parents. Then the fourth generation was John and Frances Sanka, and so this was our fourth generation, and now we're looking at, they were married in, I guess I don't have the marriage date, I'm sorry. And so then this was my mother, but they were all from St. Wenceslaus. And then the next generation was my mother, who was also married here. And this was their wedding at St. Wenceslaus as well. Then the next generation was me. And so this is our wedding at St. Wenceslaus. So we've got a strong tradition here. And because this was a national parish, I grew up on a farm by Fairfax, but we came here to church because this was the family church. But I lived on a farm, and so my parents didn't think that they could afford for my sister and brother and I to go to the Catholic school. So we were catechism kids. We would come here on Saturday mornings and then 2 weeks in the summer for our faith formation. The sesquicentennial being this year was very important to me because it was very important to my family. As I mentioned, the first couple to be married here were my great-great-grandparents. And then we were the fifth generation of our family to be married here. So we have a strong connection. And I always feel that the present can learn a lot from the past. We may not be happy with things that are going on around us now, but they went through so much. One, coming to a country where they didn't know the language. And of course, then there was the Depression and the 2 wars, and they survived. And I think we can learn from that. And so I feel we really need to honor them and not forget about the past. And I know I had talked to some others, and they said we need to look to the future. But I was excited to find out that the cornerstone on the 1904 church was St. Wenceslaus, guide us now and in the future. So I think St. Wenceslaus is an amazing role model for us because of the struggles he went through in his life, and we can learn from that as well.